Hello everybody, my name is Gary Wills. Welcome to episode 32 of my YouTube channel. In this episode I want to talk about a mini game of black powder that I've just set up and run based on Scherer's instruction to the Army of Italy in 1795. Scherer led the Army of Italy immediately before Bonaparte. One of the prompts for this game was I'm preparing to present Pirmesens at Salute in 2025 using the Prussian army against the French. It's not a game you see very often. This is the first brigade that I've painted up for that army. It's the Prince of Baden's brigade, and I wanted to get them on the table. This was the real driver for the scenario. In the last days of 1795, Scherer, who commanded the Army of Italy, issued an instruction for his army to accommodate the fact that the theatre of war was going to change from the mountains into the plains of Italy. This instruction is quite detailed, and you can find it in Colin's Tactics and Discipline in the Armies of the Revolution, but I got it from the useful website demibrigade.org. And I'm going to focus in on this highlighted section in the red box. So in his instruction, Scherer tells his commanders how to deploy a division of 4 demi-brigades of line troops and a demi-brigade of light troops in an attack on the enemy line. And there's a lot of detail there you can read, but I've tried to illustrate it on the following chart. And in essence, his instruction can be displayed like this. At the bottom of the chart, you can see the 4 3-battalion demi-brigades in a battalion column, and they're each, for the sake of argument, about 528 rank and file long. In front of them, 150 paces in front, he positioned the 3 battalions of a demi-brigade légère, which deployed all in 2-man files, 2 to 3 paces per file. So each battalion would cover about 4 of the following line infantry columns. And the argument was that the demi-brigade légère would advance quickly towards the enemy line and would take them under fire, and their fire would redouble once they got within 50 paces of the enemy line, and they would continue to fire until the conditions were right for the battalion columns to charge home. So I wanted to illustrate this instruction, and so I decided to take a trip back in time to 1793 and apply it in a Pirmesens context using the Prince of Baden's infantry brigade to defend against part of Freytag's centre column from Moreau's attacking force. So rather than do the whole 12 battalion attack, I focused it down on only one demi-brigade from the French, screened by a battalion of light infantry, attacking a single brigade of Prussians. So in essence, the French plan looks something like this. So this shows the play sheet for the game. The 3 large French line infantry battalions are straight from the OOB of the Pirmesens battle. I've added the tirailleurs they're from a Boxtel OOB, for those who've seen my work on that. I've added a half battery of light artillery, horse artillery, to support the French, and each of the close order battalions has a pair of battalion guns. The Prussians have the 3 battalions of infantry. They're supported by their Schützen as light infantry, and each of the close order battalions again is supported by 6-pounder battalion guns. In points they're fairly close, despite the fact that the French are much bigger battalions. The points are about the same. The French are handicapped because their morale is a class different to the Prussians, saving on a 5+ rather than a 4+. So this is the Pirmasens battlefield as it's shown in my book Throwing Thunderbolts, and what I've done is create a mini battlefield based on the area within the red box. And here you can see the setup for the game. The infantry are deployed on the Callistra Hexon Hill. The ground to either side of it is quite steep and broken, so that's considered rough terrain when not on the hexes, and that will make the game interesting and funnel the French attack. So here you can see the Prussian brigade with each battalion having deployed its 2 6-pounder battalion guns, and the Schutzen, as they did during the battle, not really screening their own battalions but taken away to occupy the broken ground. And here's a close-up of one of the Prussian battalions, and I use a 33:1 figure to men ratio, so it's a 16 figure battalion. They are chariot miniatures from Manchester Militum, and I have many more to paint. And this is a close-up of the French setup with the 3 line infantry battalions and their battalion guns screened by the light troops, which are in 2 small units either side of the road along which the horse artillery is advancing. Here's a close-up from the other side, and you can see the figures a bit better. The line infantry, these are the whites or the Ancien Regime uniforms, are from Manchester Militum, from their chariot range. The light troops and some of the other line infantry and indeed the artillery are all from minifigs. So I'm finished with an overview of the setup. It's a very simple game, but will be interesting nonetheless. So the objective of the game is to break the brigade morale of the enemy brigade. The Prussians have 3 battalions, and so they would be broken if 2 of those battalions are either broken or shaken at the beginning of one of their turns. For the French have 5 infantry units, 2 smaller units, so they would be broken if 3 of the battalions are broken or shaken. Here we see from the Prussian perspective the situation at the end of French turn 1, and you can see all of the units have moved forwards and the horse artillery is deployed. And here's the end of Prussian move 1. Not much has happened. The Prussian fire has been ineffective against the dispersed light troops. And here's another close-up of the Prussian line as the French skirmishers approach them. Now moving on to French move 2, you can see that the French skirmishers have continued to advance as Scherer had required, closer to the Prussian line and bring them under fire. And the unit on the left is obviously having also deal with the Schutzen in the woods. So in Prussian move 2, the Prussians decided to take an aggressive stance to this, and with the skirmishers so close to them, they were able to make initiative charges, pushing the skirmishers back, forcing them to evade. Moving on to French move 3, we can see that the fire from the French was pretty desultory. Nothing happening as far as the skirmish is concerned, but the horse artillery did cause some disorder on the central Prussian battalion. In Prussian move 3, the 2 wing battalions were able to use initiative moves to pull back to their original positions. So in French move 4, the French general sent his skirmishers back forward again, so they were just within range and could start peppering away at the Prussians, who, as you can see by the wounded figures behind the battalions, are now starting to take casualties. So here on Prussian move 4, you can see that the Prussian battalion guns have started to get their eye in. At this range, they can ignore the skirmishers and fire in on the columns behind. They're causing disorder and the odd casualty. So on French turn 5, the tirailleurs on the left were able, because of the closeness of the Schützen, to advance again into close range with the Prussian line and take them under fire. However, the unit of tirailleurs on the right failed their command test and had to stay stationary, although they did cause some casualties and disorder in the Prussian left-wing battalion. So pressing on to Prussian move 5, not much has changed, although the closest French tirailleurs received a casualty from the fire of their Prussian opponents. The artillery, however, was less effective. At the range the French columns are, it's a 6 to hit, so it's not surprising perhaps. So on the French move 6, the French commander's having a bit of a nightmare. He not able to get his brigade moving at all, and so it continued to be a firefight between the horse artillery and the skirmishers and the Prussian line. And here you can see a bit closer shot of the French infantry waiting in their columns. So moving on to Prussian move 6, again the 2 wing battalions of the Prussian line have charged forward to clear away the skirmishers from their front. And you can see why. Each battalion has now suffered from the fire to their front, causing casualties which will cost them dear if they're not careful. On the other hand, the Prussian gunfire from the battalion guns has caused another casualty amongst the French columns and disordered one of them. So we're now on French turn 7, and you can see the French commander is clearing his skirmishers to the flank in order to prepare for the advance of his columns. And in the meantime, the skirmishers have inflicted more disorder on the right-wing Prussian battalion. Prussian move 7, the 2 Prussian battalions fall back again to form the line. The battalion on the right taken a disorderly retreat to do it, which means that it will remain disordered until the end of the next turn. So on French move 8, the brigade commander makes his move and starts the advance of his columns. And the fire from the artillery supporting battalion guns and the skirmishers has done its part now. All of the Prussian units have ended up becoming disordered during this turn. So this photograph shows the situation at the end of Prussian move 8, and although the disorders have all gone, you can see the Prussian battalions have all taken a lot of damage. In fact, the one on the left is now shaken with 3 casualties, and this is the right time for the French columns to be trying to press forward, or they've not done it very quickly. So now we see the French attack go in. Relative to Scheerer's instruction, the tirailleurs have been pushed well back from the 50 metres he was envisaging, but nonetheless, here they go. So Prussian move 9, the fire from the Prussian line was able to disorder one of the 2 French columns, but not the other one, which means that only one of the 2 columns can try to charge home next move. And here we can see the situation at the end of French move 10, and the central French column had charged in towards the centre of the Prussian line, but it wasn't then broken, so consequently the closing fire was sufficient to cause a break test on that column, and the column failed its break test and was therefore destroyed and removed from the table. However, the horse artillery was still able to fire on the target battalion in the ensuing shooting phase. The result of that was that the central battalion was indeed shaken by the artillery fire, and that meant at the beginning of Prussian move 10, 2 of the 3 Prussian battalions were shaken, and therefore the brigade had to withdraw from the field of battle. And here's a final close-up of the battered Prussian line. So, in conclusion, the morale of the Prussian brigade was broken, and they began their retirement from the field, and the game ended. So the French achieved this result mainly by supporting their tirailleurs with the artillery fire from the horse artillery and the battalion guns. And as we saw, sending in the close order battalions at the wrong time can end in failure, as it did this time. So one notable point about this is while the French used their tirailleurs to screen their close order battalions, the Schützen of the Prussian battalions were taken away from their battalions and used to occupy broken ground. This is what actually happened at Pirmasens, so it's not unusual. It's, however, not necessarily how the regulations are written, but it was very typical of the ancient regime use of light troops, which is they were seen to be best used to occupy broken ground rather than become a strike force as the French tirailleurs were used. And it was a nice little game. I did play it again using a more aggressive Prussian stance, but that also ended up in a Prussian defeat because, of course, the Prussian, if they attack in that situation, not really got a way of dealing with the fire coming in from the dispersed skirmishers and the supporting artillery. So it was 2-0 to the French in that regard. So I hope you enjoyed that little video, shorter than most of mine, but it really is I make them in support of my various publications. Obviously this video is particularly relevant to Throw in Thunderbolts, which is a Wargamer's guide to the War of the First Coalition, but you can see here my other publications which are all looking for buyers. So if you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and look out for my other 30 videos which all form a similar focus on 15mm wargaming in the French Revolution and Napoleonic Wars. Thank you and goodbye.